Hello and welcome to this Filbert Flies review of the Gothenburg Landvetter add-on airport for Microsoft Flight Simulator by ORBX. You join me here on final to runway 21 at Gothenburg, and I'm starting with an approach as always to give you a little idea of what the surrounding area looks like, and also so that you can gauge the performance on my system. I'm running an i7-8700K processor with 32GB of RAM and a 1080 Ti graphics card. We'll complete the approach and landing, and I'll join you again at a gate when we'll have a proper look around the scenery in different weather and lighting conditions, and I'll give you my all-important opinion on it. See you shortly. Welcome to Gothenburg. As you can see, we're parked up at gate 19, and the first thing you might notice is the custom model jetways that are included with this scenery. Now unfortunately these can't be animated at the moment due to SDK limitations, but personally I'd rather see the correct type of jetway that isn't animated than a bodge job of using default jetways in a scenery where they don't belong. The second thing, if you're anything like me, that you might have noticed is the extensive use of transparent glass and modelled interiors to the terminal building. A quick look inside shows benches, lighting, departure boards, and I would say that these are designed to be appreciated from outside rather than in, and they do look really spectacular as you pull up in your aircraft. This terminal section jutting out here separates the gates on the right, which are mostly used for non-Schengen flights, from those on the left, which are mostly used for Schengen flights. Thank you to Kevin for providing me with that little tidbit of information. And if you have a look in here, you can see yet more interior modelling. That continues all the way along the terminal, which is really, really impressive stuff. Now this airport was developed by Marcus Newborg, whose Stockholm Arlanda airport I used to use frequently in Prepared. And I was very impressed with that, and I'm very impressed with this so far. And I have to say, he is the absolute king of texturing. If you have a look at this concrete texture over here, it is super crisp, super high resolution, and beautifully modelled. We've got PBR materials used throughout, so you can see this metal section up here is reflecting the sunlight as we move left and right. And all of this goes together to create a really, really convincing airport. It really does feel like you're there. Moving on over to the landside part of the airport, you will notice that less attention has been paid to this than the airside part, as you would expect. The ground textures out here are default, and therefore they're not super high resolution. It's not an airport that is designed to be viewed from this angle from close up. But there are some nice features like these advertising flyers on this lamppost, and the modelling of the terminal exterior itself is very, very nicely done. We don't have transparent glass out here, but we do have some pretty good fairly convincing window textures, as well as clutter like airport buses, fencing, taxi rank signs and things like that. Now, this is good enough for me. I think it's coincidence that lately I've reviewed quite a number of airports where the developers have spent a lot of time on the texturing and modelling out the front, and I've enjoyed it, but it's not a priority for me. Up at the northern end of the airport we have the cargo terminal, and this is beautifully modelled and textured as well. You'll see the SAS cargo sign is three-dimensional, and again the extensive use of PBR materials leads this to look very, very convincing indeed. And there are a number of static aircraft included with the scenery. There isn't an option to turn these on or off. Personally, I think there are slightly too many. I like to see a few static aircraft around, particularly in the absence of any decent AI add-on for the sim, but they do take up an awful lot of gates at this airport. Let's take a look at the ground texturing. Well, there's nothing to complain about here either. The taxiway centre lines are beautifully done. You can see they've got little scuffs and nicks taken out the side of them. They're not too bright and cartoony, they're just the right amount of faded for me. The concrete texturing in general is very good. You've got little cracks and scuffs and oil spills and that sort of thing dotted around the place. And again, that makes for a very, very convincing experience when you arrive here. The runway and taxiway signage is super clear, very nicely done. And the taxiway edge lines follow the same pattern as the centre lines in that they are very nicely textured. They've used a variety of different colours of grass and different thicknesses as well. So you've got some scorched patches, some lush green patches, and some bits where there just isn't much grass to see at all, and that's really nice. It all adds to the immersion. The runway surface has an appropriate level of tyre marking along the touchdown zone. And again, you've got various scuffs and discolorations which make it look very, very realistic indeed. Down at the southern end of the terminal you will notice this construction site where they're building 3 new gates. Now I have it on good authority, again thank you Kevin, that these gates are now operational, and also that the developer has said that he's going to release an update to bring these gates into the sim in due course. The night lighting at this airport is pretty good as well. If you have a look at these floodlights, they're casting a nice warm orange glow over the apron and everything on it. And the effect from the lit terminal interiors is pretty spectacular. Really, really nice job there. The areas that don't have transparent glass, such as the SAS cargo offices, I presume, in this building, still look pretty good at night time. Those textures really do give the impression of windows lit up from within. And the parking stands over on the cargo terminal are lit very convincingly from these floodlights. The remote stands too haven't been missed out, and they are nicely lit. Again, very, very convincing. A lot of care has been taken to light up the taxiway signs at night, so you shouldn't have any trouble seeing them as you're taxiing your aircraft. And they've got extensive taxiway centerline lights as well. And if we move over to the runway, you'll see that's very nicely lit too. All in all, I can comfortably say this is a great airport to arrive at night time. The airport, as you'd expect, looks very good in the rain. The only exception, of course, is the transparent glass windows, which stand out like a sore thumb whenever there's poor visibility. But as always, that's not the developer's fault. That is an SDK limitation, which will hopefully be improved by Asobo with time. I had very high hopes for the implementation of snow in this scenery, but I have to say it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I really liked what they've done with the grass and the taxiways, which have a smattering of snow here and there where they haven't been cleared, but are mostly pretty free of snow. That looks good. But there are certain areas where you have a really thick blanket of snow with some jagged edges, which doesn't really look all that convincing. Here's an example down here. And that's particularly evident over by the gates. This snow here just looks wrong to me. I can't understand why these areas here would have been cleared, but the areas where the aircraft actually sit are carpeted with snow. And again, you've got these very harsh edges, which just doesn't look very believable to me. This is true all the way along the terminal, even at the stands with jetways, so it's not a remote stand issue, it's just how it's been done. And that's a little bit of a shame in a snowy part of the world like this. So, what do I think of this add-on? Well, I'm extremely impressed with it. The modelling and texturing is some of the best I've seen, as is the extensive use of transparent glass and model terminal interiors. The custom jetways are great, and the developer has said he will animate them as soon as the SDK allows it. All of the night lighting is superb, both inside and outside the terminal. I found three very little things to complain about. The low resolution default ground textures out the front of the airport, which really is a non-issue for me, but worth mentioning because I know it'll be important to some of you. The number of static aircraft taking up spaces at the gates, an issue that bothers me only a tiny little bit, but I would like to see options to remove the aircraft entirely or thin them out. And the slightly strange implementation of snow. This bothers me the most out of the three, but it's still a very small issue in the grand scheme of things. Overall, this is an absolutely first-class add-on. It has one of the most convincing atmospheres of any airport I've reviewed to date, thanks largely to the exceptionally detailed textures. It really does feel like you're there. Gothenburg is available to purchase from ORBX for just under $25 Australian, which at the time of recording is equivalent to about £13.50, just under €15 and just under $18 US. In my opinion, this is great value for money, and I have no hesitation at all in recommending this add-on. I hope you found this review useful. If you have, please do click the thumbs up button down below and consider subscribing to the channel if you'd like to see more of this sort of thing. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon on Filbert Flies. Take care. Bye bye.